Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick video showing a little bit of the behind the scenes kind of coding and tracking down crashes that are occurring on hardware. I think it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if you will, but what was happening is there's a couple different memory leaks that I found, and most of them weren't a real big deal. They were definitely causing issues on the 3DO console that I wasn't seeing on the emulator, and I'm pretty sure I was able to get those kind of tracked down and fixed. But one major issue that was happening is in the one player mode, so the battle plan. It would every time you went to fight the second fighter, it would just crash and reboot on hardware. It worked fine on the emulator, but I did notice a couple issues that had to do with the sound effects that I'll kind of go through and show. Um, those have been corrected as well. Basically, what it has to do with is there's three different sets of sound effects. There's the male fighters, the female fighters, and then Liu Kang has his own set of sound effects. So in order to keep loading times minimal, I'm unloading as little as possible. So if Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fighting each other, you don't need to unload the second fighter's sound effects set, or when they get loaded, they're the same exact sound effect set, with the exception of the fighter's name has to get loaded separately. So I was doing some kind of goofy thing with that. That's been corrected, but on the that's what I thought was the issue with the battle plan mode, but I ended up finding another issue that I'm going to test and just make sure that it actually works like it's supposed to. So we're going to run through here on the hardware and see the method that I used to track it down. So because I don't have, it's not, it's just a regular 3DO. There's no, it's not like a developer console that they had back in the day. I wrote this utility that would go through and display on the screen for 1 second a number so basically for every major function that I'm going in a row that could potentially cause a crash, I'm calling the function and then displaying the number on the screen, calling the next function, displaying the number on the screen, and then going through over and over again until I get to a point where it crashes. And then when it does, whatever number, basically it's on the screen between that one and the next number that doesn't show, that's where the crash occurred. So right here you can see I'm on the 3DO console, and it's running through the functions one at a time. There's 15 total until it actually gets to the fight, and then it's going to load. So as expected, it's going to load the first fighter with no issues. So we'll just go through and do this fight real quick because I'm just trying to get to the second fight. I know it's going to crash. We just need to track down exactly where it's crashing, because then from there it should be, we should be able to figure out what's causing it. So just go through round 2 real quick. There's also some goofy kind of animations and fighters doing things that they're not supposed to. And there's going to be more of that that's going to get caught during beta testing. Part of the reason for that is when I'm testing myself, there's, it's just myself on a keyboard, so I can't test, every combination. So in any case, going into fighter 2 right now. So function 3, function 4, and it's hanging right here, and it's, I'm sure, going to reboot, and it did. So we know that somewhere between function 4 and function 5 is where the crash occurred. So now we're going to track that down. Okay, so I'm going to show, first of all, what I thought was causing the crash, and I'm sure it would have, but this isn't what I just tracked down now. So just real quick, where the fighter's sound effects get unloaded, there's really 3 sets of sound effects. There's Liu Kang, the male fighters, and then the female fighters. So what I was doing is when I went to unload the sound effects, I was checking to see if fighter 1 was fighter 2, and if not, I was unloading the samples. Not considering that it doesn't work that way. It needs to be, again, it's not fighter by fighter, it's Liu Kang, female or male. So I was incorrectly unloading the sound effects. And then another issue that I found relatively quickly after that was even if it is the same, so say it's like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, Scorpion's fighter 1, Sub-Zero's fighter 2, when Sub-Zero gets unloaded, you can't just blindly unload all the sound effects. You have to, the name still has to get unloaded separately. So that's one thing that was corrected real quick. But then the major issue that I just found, I'm going to scroll back up, and this is where it showed that it's crashing between function 4 and 5. So basically in the game loop, it runs through, we've got the choose fighter screen, and then depending on whether what the game mode is, it's going to do some different things. So if we go to game mode 1, which is 1 player, the battle plan, so we're going to load fighter 1. Fighter 1 always stays in memory. Fighter 1 sound effects. the function pointers for fighter 1. And then we have to load the battle plan, which is kind of like the mountain, and then all the frames that have been predetermined up front, so it randomizes them. And here's where it was crashing. So what it does is, depending on the level that we're at, so it's from 0 up to 14, so 15 total. When it was choosing the fighter, it was calling a function in here. So this is where, right here I had a thing that was printing out to the screen. So here was number 4, here was number 3, here was number 2, here, whatever. So this function I just added, and I kind of hacked it in to get it working properly. What it was doing, so after it chose the next fighter, it has to, we have to assign all of the different animation positioning and palette and all those different things for the fighter. But the function that it was calling was the wrong one, or not the wrong one, it was the only one, but it was doing things that it shouldn't have. So this toggle fighter gets used during the choose fighter screen. And what happens there is, every time you switch between a fighter, there's one master graphic that has all of the animation frames for the stance for every fighter and for the pose for every fighter. That gets unloaded after the choose fighter screen goes away. But in this function that I was calling toggle fighter, where I was giving it the newly selected fighter, it was still trying to reassign or reload all those assets that have already been unloaded from memory. I don't know why it wasn't crashing on it. Like, it should have crashed right away as soon as you went to the first fighter, but it wasn't. So it probably honestly would have been a little bit easier to track down if that was the case. So basically, I still need to do the initialization, which basically, assigns all the positioning and everything for each fighter, the timing, the animations, and things like that. Links up the assets to the fighter, and then there's a fighter struct that keeps track of a million different variables that have to do with the current fighter and state and things like that. So I just made a slimmed down version of this function that only does what we need it to, and now we're good. Well, we should be good in theory. So I'm going to boot up the 3DO console itself and just go through and make sure that the one-player mode, the battle plan, actually works like it's supposed to. Alright, sorry guys, I'm terrible at recording voiceovers over the videos that already have the audio baked into them. So this is not going to have the Mortal Kombat audio, but I did test and verify everything is good. It's loading and unloading like it's supposed to, both on the emulator. I'm not getting the unload sample errors that I was getting previously, and it's not crashing on hardware, and it's reloading all the audio for every fighter and every combination of fighters. So if it's the same fighter, when it gets unloaded and reloaded, if it's a female fighter versus a male fighter versus Liu Kang, everything's reloading properly. So this is on the 3DO console now. We're just going to test, and really what I want to make sure is that when we go through the one-player battle plan mode, that we're able to get past the first fighter successfully and it loads without crashing. Ideally, we would also test multiple different fighters so that we can see it would crash if there was any audio issues as well. So even though you can't hear the audio because I had to re-record the audio track, and again, I apologize for that. Just the fact that it's not crashing is a good thing, but I can verify that yes, it was playing all the audio like it was supposed to be. So Johnny Cage here, again, just kind of blowing through the fights real quick because I don't really care about the fight or the mechanics right now. All I care is that we can get to the next fights in the battle plan without it crashing. And I realized that after one attack in when you're in the finish him or the finisher mode, it's supposed to end the fight right away. So one of many things that's still on the to-do list to get corrected. Oh yeah, so it loaded Baraka, by the way, so all good. So the crash that was happening on hardware has been fixed. So I just want to go through real quick and see, alright, so that's been fixed. Now we're able to go through the battle plan to the next fighter. Now, if we can get to another fighter that's a different audio set, that's another positive too. And again, I already ran through and verified that it's good, but we'll just go through this fight real quick and just confirm. So all good. Long fighter 3. So the load times you'll notice are also really good. Couple of reasons for that. One, it's only loading one fighter's assets and then one new arena when it gets to the next one, because fighter 1 stays in memory forever. And I'm also using an ODE, which speeds up load times as well. I don't have a 3DO that I can test with a CD-ROM drive right now, so I don't know what the load times look like on that, but should be pretty decent, I would think. But it'd be interesting to see, you know, when this thing is released, if somebody burns a disk, how it loads. And then this is the last fighter that I'm going to do as Reptile. I mean, just the fact that we're honestly that we just got past the second fighter told me that we're good. So good. I'm happy to get this corrected. This is something that was kind of weighing on my mind, so I'm happy we can get past this and basically move on to just forward progress from this point forward, hopefully. So thanks, everyone.